we are. Time
Hello,
for
hello.
one of these.
Yep. Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Glasshouse Presents Throwing Stones podcast. I'm here with your host, David CAMPITI, and I'm your co-host, Christopher Hall. Very, very long time and has an illustrious career. So, David?
What's 30 years among friends? You know, artist CliffRichards is a sometimes underappreciated super talent. The man has drawn major book titles for DC and major stuff from Dark Horse and elsewhere for many years. But he does basically no American conventions, so people have to meet him. So I'm here to change all that today. So let's bring in the amazing CliffRichards.
Hey, hello, Cliff.
Now, this is
Hey, David.
Hey.
These are the kind of words.
So, musician CliffRichards.
Everybody does.
And by the way, since my dear friend Cliff likes beer, instead of my usual coffee, I'm having beer tonight in his honor. So if it's all right, Cliff, I want to reveal something here. Most folks may not be aware that CliffRichards is a pseudonym. Cliff, your real name?
Ricardo Fraga.
There you go, Ricardo Fraga. Now, there's a story behind this. I bring this up as a cautionary tale for some artists, writers, letterers who figure, why can't I break in? My work's good. I'm being hired by this editor, but not by this guy over here. And Cliff went through that. The project came up, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Cliff, under his real name, had submitted some beautiful samples to Dark Horse. Dark Horse's editor took a look, said, this stuff is great. This is wonderful. I want to use the guy. And the next conversation completely changed. Well, I don't know if he's going to be right for it. I don't know if he can draw action. My spider sense began to tingle. So I, to be on the safe side, to make sure that I wasn't missing cues here, I went to a guy who was already a superstar on our roster, Mike Deodato, who did a couple of pages of layouts for Ricardo Fraga, at which he finished. We submitted to Dark Horse, and the editor said, see, that's what I mean. It's not right. The guy can't draw action. And this is like our top action guy doing the layouts. So I knew something was very wrong. So another one of our guys, Joe Bennett, got the job. And a few months later, I came back with this amazing new artist, CliffRichards, with a different batch of Buffy the Vampire Slayer samples. Submitted it. It's like, oh, this guy, why didn't you show me this guy before? He's terrific. So CliffRichards was born. And since then, it's been a pretty illustrious 30-year career for this man. That's my getting to know you story. Cliff, talk from your end about breaking in and where it went from there.
Really love when we get to the Dark Horse Buffy. Yes, amazing in the market. And I did for Buffy for almost 5 years. Remember?
Oh, yes. You were the consistent penciler guy, amazing years.
19 to 2004.
Wow.
Familiar before you started the books, or did you kind of learn as you went?
Yes, I was familiar with the show, but not a great fan. I didn't watch a lot. But when I get the job, I started to follow the show and became a fan after all. Great. And then I met the creator, Josh Whedon.
I bet there's a lot of. Are you familiar with this property? Are you familiar with this character? And a lot of artists are like, "Oh yeah, I know a lot about it," and they know nothing about it just to get the job.
very, very famous by the time.
Yeah. Besides Buffy, you did some of the spin-off.
Oh, yeah. Angel, Faith, Spike the Vampire. Okay, title. I work a little bit on those two.
Yeah, Cliff had sort of an iron hold on the project for a while, and his efforts for Dark Horse didn't end there. He was working.
Indeed. Ghost, wishes for Ghost as well.
Oh, very nice.
I don't
Yes.
even remember because it's too long ago. I remember a bit. I remember some of the attempts we did to show new, fresh art to new editors at another publishers. And it wasn't easy, but we got there.
Chris, do you have that piece that Cliff did for me early on that will show some of his early style? Back in probably 1996, while this was the kind of work that he was doing. So gorgeous and pretty stuff even.
Richard Fraga. That's the signature there.
That's right. DC in here, but probably some others.
Is this up on the Glass House website? Or
a lot of it, yes.
okay, very nice.
You can tell. Cliff, talk to us about some of what we're seeing here.
Oh yeah, this is the new character for Ida, a superhero. Very, very new superhero.
Came out of nowhere, contacted me, said he wanted to do graphic novels. We talked for a long while, and before we knew it, he launched a book called Isom, which Cliff was the artist for, and Cliff of the 21st century so far. Isom Volume 1 had pre-orders of over $3.7 million.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, you hear the Rare Marble book that way back then did 1 million copies or 3 million copies or whatever during the boom, and they didn't do that amount of money.
That's like the GDP of a really small country.
Yeah. And you know, Cliff has also drawn volumes 2 and 3 of Isom that have done very well as well. What's important here is that it was a combination of a really smart guy, fast in social media, to do all these sales before or without ever touching comic book stores. So that is just direct to consumer, man. And he wasn't doing Kickstarter or any of that. He put it on his own website and raised that kind of money. But he wanted top of the line artwork, lettering, and coloring. So of course he came to CliffRichards.
Of course. So what is this piece from, Cliff?
This is from the Isom 2, issue 2.
Okay.
And this introducing a new character, Bloody Ruth, and her pets.
Very, very cool. I love dragons, so this is amazing stuff. Got a little bit of Superman and Batman going on here.
What books was this?
Yeah, a long time ago too. I don't remember when. Some Batman, Superman.
Yeah, you did Superman and Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, just all these permutations, plus the Wonder Woman title. And, oh my gosh, so many different DC books. It was like, I went through a list a while ago and was looking at all these work going on.
Yes, very nice. A colorist dream, actually.
Says one of our greater colorists.
So we got some Superman going on there. Very, very nice.
Batman's again, Wonder Woman. I don't think at this page, I think it wasn't published.
What year was this done in, Cliff? Do you remember?
No.
That's okay.
This man has sometimes drawn 2 books a month for years on end. So, you get all these guys that struggle to do a bi-monthly, and then Cliff turns around and does a monthly. It's like, well, what else you got for me? I got all this time on my hands.
Yeah, I did a lot of the DC books by that time.
Or what is? How do you put out 2 books a month?
Yeah, I always draw fast. I really don't know slow with my pace. I don't know to do things slow.
You teach your hands to move faster.
Yeah, every time, a long time. This one is news, Flash Gordon.
Oh, Flash Gordon. Okay, very cool.
But this the art is over the Flash Gordon art was over Will Curran's layout. Flash Gordon art. This one is for I think it's for Flash Gordon again, Cyborg.
Okay, very cool.
El Diablo was a good job.
Yeah, very, very cool. I love this.
Just great stuff here.
Just League, Flash Gordon again.
Yeah. Cliff has been able to do multiple styles over the years. When he was required to do a more on Buffy, but on some other stuff, he could handle it but here he's doing some absolutely lovely tonal work and very photographically real faces. And he went to do for a couple of years, he was doing a more down and Al Rio had passed. And Cliff bravely stepped up and basically duplicated Al Rio's style on the book to get it finished. So very, not only talented, but very flexible and adaptable.
Yeah, incredibly versatile.
Yeah. So,
yeah, the tonal work in here is just amazing work. Just so beautiful.
Yeah, I love to do that style. Very airbrushing. Pencils and airbrush.
It almost looks like it looks like pencil gradations almost, but this is all airbrush, eh?
Digital airbrush.
Career that I think is going to continue because he's got more work coming up verse, and he's right now doing a project for occasionally wants to bring in our big guns on a project, and so they asked for Cliff for another project with him, and Cliff, you're working on that one right now.
Yeah, I love doing work for him about 20 years now.
Yeah.
So far, yeah, long time client. And I love it. Actually, I love the work on horror stories. And Zach from Trepidation just bring.
So is that with Big Gun Richards?
Sorry?
Title clip?
So much. I was like a
cool.
And he said, that would never happen at my house.
I love that.
I love that gift, by the way.
So when last time he came to visit me here in Orlando, we of course had to go by a place here called World of Beer, but fortunately we didn't get much time to spend there. But so Cliff, do you have any interesting memories of projects that stand out in your mind? Any unusual dealing with editors? Any unusual dealing with fans that have come to you? We want to hear stories.
I'm not good at storytelling. Just try, but I want to bring that project I did a couple of years ago with Jack Ross again, with Mark Verheiden and the artist Aaron Douglas. Remember Borealis, the project Borealis. Three issues, and I love that project. I wish Jack Ross stopped at the third issue. I hopefully become back to the project.
Yes, and sometimes that, but it just ends abruptly. Sometimes.
Yeah, indeed. It was fun to work on that. Anyway,
I did want to mention, although Cliff draws digitally now for private commissions, where he'll draw it on paper and ship it to you, and he also does or also has a bunch of original art available, dealing all the way back to the Buffy days.
yeah,
And
lot of original art book.
so, if anybody's interested in his work from those early years on Buffy and the spin-offs, or Star Wars, or I'm trying to think of them. There's so many of these things. Oh yeah, I have a lot of that original art here at the office, so folks should contact me.
Yeah, you can contact David at Glasshouse Graphics to accommodate you.
Yeah, I can go through for you what I have and make it available to you. One of the things I like to mention is that since Cliff and so many other artists draw digitally these days, it's going to get tougher and tougher to be able to buy physical original art from anybody. So we're going to reach a point where it's only going to be commissions. Well, here's a case where there's still pages of Cliff's artwork available from Buffy and all these other projects that you can get now before somebody else gets them up. And if they go on their resale market, it's going to be a lot more than I'm selling them for.
Fantastic. So yeah, contact David again at David at GlassHouseGraphics.com. And let them know you would like to buy some original art or even a commission from Cliff. So, Cliff, I always like to ask, because it fascinates me, how was it going from drawing on paper and pencil to drawing digitally? Was that hard for you? Was that a hard transition?
Not so hard. The hard part that I hate electronic things, but I have to change. It's more fast, more easy to send art to the publishers, and artboard is always more slow process, So digital came to make things more fast.
Okay.
So
what do you work on these days? Since you don't use traditional pen and brush, or are you working on a tablet? Are you working on a big Cintiq? Or
actually, I use a small Cintiq.
Okay.
But the layouts I still do in pencils, paper and pencils, and then I scan, bring it to the computer, and digitally. I still like the use.
You just like the feel of working it out on the with pencil and paper.
Yeah, I know lots of artists doesn't use papers anymore, but I still have this link with paper and pencils. I love the sensation.
I agree. There's nothing like putting a pencil to paper. It's just not the same drawing digitally.
Yeah. The digital effects is amazing, actually. You can do anything you need from the airbrushing and any kind of styles digitally. Yeah. But pencil is still great.
Agreed.
Love it.
Oh, yeah.
It's been fantastic talking to you, Cliff. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate that.
Great pleasure to meet you, Chris.
Yes, very, very much pleasure to meet you too.
All right.
And pleasure
Thank
to
you
you.
soon, and I may be asking you back for another visit.
Sure.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
All right,
you, guys.
thank you, Cliff.
I appreciate a lot. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
It's always a treat talking to Cliff Richards.
It is, yeah. Cliff is such a nice guy. He just one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
And you know, one of the nice things is, I first met him back in '95 as we were talking, and his portfolio even then, even though he hadn't drawn comics, it was pretty accomplished because he was a real artist deciding to draw comics, not just a comic book artist. So he came into it with a level of skill that you don't see from necessarily a lot of people whose only goal was to be a comic book artist.
Right.
And so that makes a difference, which is my awkward segue into talking about portfolios. But before I get into today's stuff, one of the side conversations I've been having a lot of the past week have been folks that really don't understand perspective or foreshortening, because a lot of these artists are drawing or trying to draw so realistically. They find that the dramatic or exaggerated foreshortening that makes good comics, they're just wrestling with when they're trying to get it done. And you add that to some of the complication that comes from folks looking at so many image comics that gave you foreshortening, but kind of did it the easy way or the lazy way. Let me talk about what I mean here. You look at both of these are by Greg Land, so it's opposite ends of the spectrum. When Greg decides to be, he's utterly terrific. One of his older pieces is the Spider Woman that you see on the left, and I just get stressed out when I see the foreshortening is done on the left. If you look at her legs, he has it where he's kicked the rest of the leg up behind her knee. But if you show this to a non-comics reader, they would say something like, "Where's the rest of her leg?" Or "Why has she been amputated in both legs?" I mean, it is just so odd, so awkward. And that almost never happened in comics before the image guys came around. You look at Neil Adams, Gil Kane, John Buscema, Kirby, all those guys, they understood that you've got to show the rest of the leg behind him, at least a bit of a foot or something. And I'd railed about that so much over the past few years. And then I came across where Greg had drawn this more recent Spider-Woman cover that's on the right. And there he's doing it right. Some great foreshortening there, not only with the hand reaching toward us and the other hand all the way back, but you look at the bottom half of the body from the navel on down, and we can see all of the leg. There's just enough kickback to give that dramatic foreshortening, but it doesn't look awkward the way the one in the left does. There's no feeling that the character's legs have been amputated. So if you're going to submit to me, I'd prefer to see the one on the right, not the one on the left. It doesn't matter who you are. There's the one on the right's the better way to do it.
And if for students learning how to draw and people learning how to draw, are there any books you can think of offhand that are good for looking at for foreshortening?
There are sometimes the dramatic foreshortening isn't really in a lot of the art books. It's something you kind of learn from looking at the best of other comics, because there it's used a lot.
Okay.
But back in when the old Stanley's How to Draw The Marvel Way, that was done based on John Buscema's, I think it was a 6-week seminar that Buscema was teaching. Showed some good examples of that. It also shows how to do it boring and then how to do it not so boring, which so many artists these days don't even know. So as rudimentary as that book is, that would help. I wrote the sequel to that, Stan Lee's How to Draw Comics, and we talk about dramatic foreshortening and so forth in that book as well. I have a number of examples by artists like Bong Dazo, things like that show a better way to do it. We show the normal way and then the more dramatic way. So it gives you the point of comparison.
Okay. Are you a fan or a proponent of, like, say, the classic Bern Hogarth's Dynamic Anatomy?
Oh, sure. You know, if somebody is trying to draw and the human figure and hasn't at least read through the Bern Hogarth books once, they're doing themselves a disservice. You know, Bern Hogarth wasn't just an art teacher. He drew Tarzan for years. So the man knew what he was talking about.
Yep.
So there's a lot to learn from those books, just as there's a lot to learn from most older comics that are out there. Now, I think it was Diodato who told me, you can learn something from every comic book that you pick up. Sometimes what you learn to do, and sometimes you learn what not to do.
Exactly. Yep.
You can always learn if you're keeping an open mind. Yeah, let me do this for a second. Now, this is Will Conrad, a recent previous guest on our podcast, and this is Will doing a commission of Superman. And notice his foreshortening. He shows the legs, because Will is another guy who came into this understanding what to do and what not to do. So he's learned from the top guys out there. So just something to pass along for folks. The Hogarth books are good. There are also a number of other books that are out there about drawing comics, and you can learn something from all of them. And
all right.
So you know, it's not what should I read instead of this? It's what can I read in addition to this?
Right.
So the more you see what's out there, the more you're going to learn.
All right. So if you are learning to master the art form of comics, go Google and do some research and find the best books that you can and the best material that you can to learn what you need to learn. So.
Oh, sure. You know, somebody fairly recently, somebody was asking me, if I had one great comic book to suggest to people to study, what would it be? And I said, Superman versus Muhammad Ali. And they laughed. They had never heard of the book. And I said, okay, well, you know, here's a link to it. And they go through. I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. Yep. Want to learn how to draw Superman right? It's there. Want to learn how to draw buildings, real people, real situations, aliens, all of it? It's all there. So, yeah, lots of good stuff out there. Let's let's look at a few portfolios.
All right. We want to
things rolling here. I'm going to pull up this one first.
Okay.
As usual, I tend not to mention names, but whether it's good or bad stuff, but just because it's not about complimenting or insulting the person that's there. It's about showing work so that people can learn from other people's examples. So
exactly.
This fellow submitted what I thought was quite a nice portfolio. I mean, okay, this is good Despicable Me stuff. Oh, absolutely love that. Sure, Donkey Kong. Yeah. Ooh, nice. So it shows he doesn't just do cartoony. This is terrific there. Oh, very moody, very interesting. You know, before I get there, let's go back here. The one thing that I realized was, although he has characters in motion with these, there's not a story being told, or there's not a really amazing sense of design to the piece. Either one. It's just characters just kind of running or floating in negative space. So I looked at that, said, okay, this could have been more. This could have been more. If this is exactly what the art director is asking for, great, wonderful. But the best comic book covers have a great sense of design or tell a great story. I grew up on comic book covers that had such an intriguing single image there about the story inside. It pulled you in, made you want to buy that comic.
Right.
And all of these are fairly generic, and I loved how realistic that was. But again, it's just a headshot. So I went back to him and said, do you have any like story-based images or anything that you've done a really amazing design thing with? And he said, no, what you're seeing is what I've done. I said, all right, then let's try an experiment. Would you be amenable to working from someone else's layout? Because quite often you can be working for a client and an art director is going to send you a layout, so you've got a starting point of what to do. And he said, oh, sure, we can do that. So, to be fair, when I'm testing out someone, especially someone at this level who I think is quite accomplished technically, I want to see, what's the range, the limits of their skill, and the limits to their imagination. Where can they go with it? So after getting all this stuff, which is just characters in negative space or just standing around or just headshots, I gave him one of the Joe Bennett pieces for the Hot Wings project, this one. And I said, all right, what could you do with this? He said, oh, I can make this work. And I gave him a whole bunch of reference and color notes and so forth, and said, I would be interested in seeing this painted up and see what you could do with it. And he gave it his try. And I said, it's lost a lot. The layout had this sense of movement, the sweeping around of these angels all around this character is erupting out of the earth. And what we're getting is, it feels like it was kind of pasted up. It's just character on the left kind of floating there, character on the right just floating there, character at the bottom kind of just sitting there. It lost all the energy and sense of immediacy that was there, as well as the design element of the circle effect that was in the layout and didn't make it. And so I told this to him. He said, well, let me try something. And he comes back with this. And it's like, okay, you've moved the figures, but there's still that action sense of movement that we wanted to get from the sweep of the wings, the actual feeling of sort of spinning around in front of her. And it still feels like the demon lady is just pasted in. And I said, well, an obvious question. The reference I'd sent you included the logo. Why would you want to put the logo on top of the figure at the top? Wouldn't she be lost completely? Oh, right. I didn't think of that, he said. Well, wait a minute. Aren't you being hired to do a cover? Haven't you, seen covers of comics before? The logo is up there. And you didn't come back and say, I think the logo should be placed here instead. No, you just gave me this and as a sink or swim situation, and it's not really working. So I plan on giving this guy another opportunity later on because his technical skills are there. But it showed, if you gave him something at this point, this complicated, he wasn't going to quite be able to do it. So it was worth the test. And it was important that I give him something that I was developing so that he wouldn't go through a painful learning curve actually working for an outside client.
Right.
And that's why basically everybody that I am interested enough to want to work with, I'll give them a test like this. And if it works, they'll get paid for it and it'll get published and all that. And if not, well, they've learned from the process. So
Exactly.
that's an example of something that just didn't quite work out despite the strong skill level of the artist. And he's going to get another opportunity.
I remember well my first test.
What was your first test?
What's that?
What was your first test?
Oh, you had me work on Silver Wolf.
Mm.
You remember that?
I've had a number of people work on Silver Wolf, and the client is not the easiest one in the world.
Well, it did not go well, but I learned a lot from it. So,
and you have gotten other coloring jobs, so it's these opportunities to try something, even if it doesn't work. It's still part of the learning experience.
exactly. And this was back in 2007, 8, something like that. So,
Not that long.
Yeah, it's been that long.
I had an artist, very good, currently working professional artist, that when he started with us, had a bit of an attitude. He had, part of it was my fault. I got him a big project too quickly, but who wants to turn that down for a guy?
Right.
He got to work on one of the X-Men books very, very early
Okay.
in his career. Not within his first year of working, but within his second. That's not a bad place to end up.
No.
So later on, he came back with an attitude of, why are you asking me to try out on this book? They know what my stuff is like, and I should be hired just on the basis of my prior work and never be asked to try out for anything. They're offering to pay you because you're an established guy. They're paying you for a sample pair of pages. Well, I should just get the job. I have my pride. And I said, okay, walk me through this. If they had just hired you and started you on the job, you turn in your first few pages, they're not happy with it. They ask you to do some adjustments, which you may or may not do. I don't know. Let's say you've done them and they still aren't happy with it and fire you. Is that better for your pride to be fired from a project? Or is it better for your pride to say, hey, we like you enough to pay you to do a test, just to see if your vibe and ours match on this book. And if it doesn't work out, okay, you go on to the next thing and go, no problem. And you've put payment for a couple of pages in your pocket. Oh, well, I never thought of it that way, he told me. He ended up doing the sample. He didn't get hired, but because he didn't throw a temper tantrum to them and say, I didn't, why should I do it? I heard it, but
Right.
they go farther than me. He did the sample. It didn't work out. They paid him. They came back to him for their next project, which was more in line with what he normally does. And they just hired him on the spot for that. And it worked out. But, some folks get an attitude early in their careers.
Mm-hmm.
realizing, there's 300 other people out there. There's at least a couple of dozen of them available that are in your skill level that would be happy to take that job.
Yep.
So there's got to be some understanding of the realities of that market.
Right.
And right now, the realities are maybe tougher than they've ever been in the past couple of decades. The market's been in a constant state of disarray since Marvel basically destroyed the direct sales market by publishing or distributing themselves, and that eventually knocking 11 other 11 other distributors off the map till we only had Diamond, and now we don't have Diamond. So we're in a market reality of a lot of publishers realizing that the people taking over Diamond aren't showing a lot of interest in picking up the small publishers.
Right.
So where do they get distributed? The other ones that have popped up before Diamond closed shop, they don't seem to be interested in taking on the smaller publishers either.
We have no idea what Universal and AdPop are going to do. So far, the only thing we know that they've done is fire a bunch of executives and get rid of a toy line.
Yeah. So if the market is in that kind of situation, what do publishers? What are they supposed to do? Similarly, look at the tariff situation.
Mm-hmm.
The tariff situation with other countries seems to be changing daily. So if you're printing in Canada, are you paying 25% more than you expected? What will that jump to by the time your books hit the border? The books coming in from China, well, was the tariff 145% for a while? Is it 30% now? Or books, when I last looked, books were going to be exempt from the 30% tariff. But again, books that shipped last week, including some of mine, I don't know what they're going to be by the time they hit the port. Exactly. So you have no idea what your final cost is. And once you've printed those books, who's going to get them to the comic shops? If you don't know any of those things, you don't really want to be going out on a limb and paying a lot for stories, art, lettering, coloring, production work, to get books ready that you may not be able to make your dollars back on.
Exactly. Now, do you feel that, just to expand a little bit, do you feel that the tariff situation could possibly push publishers to print in country?
Well, okay, let's walk through that. The short answer is they would like to, and if the costs had been reasonable in the U.S., they would have been doing that all along. Costs of print in the U.S. were reasonable for the first half a century of comics publishing. And the reality has become that where are most of those printers buying their ink? From China. Where are they buying their paper? Oh, from China or from Canada, both of which have big tariffs on them. So as pricey as comics have been to print in the U.S. in the past, it's only gotten worse. Now, add the tariffs on the ink and paper and the ever-growing cost for transporting those comics to the distributors, you end up with so many other little things that are just affecting things. Here. I used this example before, but this Jade Warriors book. We printed this in China. This oversized 200-page book. Pretty gorgeous. with the library binding and so forth. And before the tariffs, I priced this out at several US printers. The best price they were giving me for the quantities I wanted was $21 a copy.
Okay.
Tax plus shipping. So we're at almost $24 a piece. All right. Well, let's look at that. My cost out of China at that point was $7, including the door-to-door shipping.
And that's for a good quality paper stock too, right?
Yeah, that was high quality stock, hardcover, oversized, library binding, slipcase, dust jacket. We even color coordinated the ribbon that's inside to hold your page. Just all these little details that we put through it, and it still came to $7 a book.
Can't
And
beat that.
you know, so $21 is going to become what, 25 now with the tariffs. So even if the tariffs hit, as long as they're not insane, China may still be a lot cheaper.
Right.
Canada, even with the tariffs, might still be cheaper. But there doesn't seem to be any path to getting economical pricing in the USA.
Do you think that could be a push to maybe go back to newsprint?
I wouldn't mind if it were the case, because to me, I would like to see a lot of comics back on newsprint. It would also stop the colorists from doing so many super dark, super saturated colors, because they'd have to go back to brighter colors that have to account for the ink sinking into the paper stock rather than sitting on top of it. And so I wouldn't mind that at all. I don't know what kind of paper pricing that's going to get us. When I did printing in the early 90s, so we're talking still 30 some years ago, I was using something called the Spider Mat. We called it the Amazing Spider Mat. It was a 35-pound super calendared stock. So it was slick and felt like it had a little gloss to it, but it didn't. It was just the way the paper was made. And it was a newsprint, but it was a good looking newsprint, but it came out of Canada. So, they're going to have to find U.S. suppliers that are going to be able to provide paper and ink in quantities that the American printers can get. And so there's just so many things. And the tariff isn't a solution. It's a domino effect to bigger problems all across the board. And, comic publishers are facing the brunt of that right now. So if it's harder than ever to get jobs drawing or lettering or coloring or writing or whatever, that's why, because the publishers have to be very careful how they're spending their money, because they don't know what their next book is going to cost to print, or if they get it printed, if they're sure it's going to ship. So that's the sad reality we've all got to understand.
And while some people think that digital, well, what about digital? That has proven to not be anywhere near as popular as traditional print material.
Of course not, because digital, you've got a bunch of older readers that aren't going to want to read a comic on their phone or their laptop or their desktop or their iPad or whatever. And the whole collectability mentality is lost on digital. It's not the same to say, oh, I got all 14 issues on my iPad. It feels different than the 14 issues that you went to the store, you bought, you own, you flip through the physical a book, you've made that physical, emotional connection to what you've read so that you will appreciate it in 10, 20, 30 years.
Right.
All that is lost because the whole digital experience is so fleeting. And, my experience with books that we have produced, both for print as well as made them available digital, there's not enough money to be made with the digital. And quite simply, it's one thing to be able to, buy your copy of the current issue of Batman or whatever, and then, share it with your best friend so they get to read it too, as opposed to, well, I just got my digital copy download of such and such a book. Here, I'm going to send it to 373 of my closest friends.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So everyone that you've sent to is money that you're not making. Where printed comics, they assumed that there was a double or triple or quadruple read through as stuff got shared. So all that is missed with the digital thing. I guess we have time for a couple other portfolio things. Let's look at this one. One of the things that I found with doing portfolios is you don't need a lot of stuff in somebody's portfolio. Often 10 pages is too much. I can get by with 5 or 6 pages and maybe a cover or two will tell me what I need to know about the artist for purposes of that submission. I get a page like this and I think there's more that could be done. Are we able to scroll in on this?
Let's see here. Oh yeah, you can. Whoop.
That's not it.
All right, let's see here.
Back to where we were. Okay. That's okay if not. In the first panel, I look at this and think, okay, that's kind of okay. It's a nice drawing of a Jeep and so forth. I might have wanted to see a little more of sense of movement, so it's not parked there, but it's pulling in so that we see some dust, we see some exhaust, anything to give a feeling of life to what's a pretty static panel. I get to the second panel, and my suggestion is if somebody's not doing this for a company owned by Disney, don't put Mickey Mouse on it. Just a thought. I look at panel 3 and what's going on with the driver's left arm? What's going on with that wrist? Look at it closely. It's like he just didn't finish drawing the hand or the wrist. It's just kind of vanishes.
Yeah, and the face on the right.
Yeah, face on the right is unfinished. That whole center console area is unfinished. Why would you send an unfinished piece? What happened to the rear view mirror? It's kind of gone too. You get to the next panel where the guy's pointing the gun, and it's like, all right, I'm not understanding the space there. He seemed to be closer to the guy in panel 3 than he is in panel 4. It's like the background suddenly vanished, so he was able to lean back and stretch his arm the whole way and still be arm's length from the guy. So there wasn't any real thought there as to how deep is that front seat. I thought we established it in panels 2 and 3, and then he changes what the amount of space is in there. Or was he supposed to be getting out of the Jeep and is pointing the gun as he's getting out? If that was the intention, we're not seeing it. Also, the guy in the driver's seat now apparently has a watch on that he didn't have in panel 3. I assume because his hand was so swollen in panel 3. And then panel 4, the bald guy is out there. Was he supposed to have shot the guy between panels? Is he out there taking a pee? I really don't know. I'm unclear. And if there was smoke rising from the gun, that would have told us. If there was something, anything else to give us a sense of what had happened, I shouldn't have to rely on the words. Yeah, the artist might say, well, the script said he's just out there standing. Okay, but if you as the artist think of yourself as the movie storyboard artist, surely there would have been things you could have done to have told the story better.
Right.
So I can look at this one page and see, although this guy can work from tracing or swiping a photo or drawing of a Jeep, he's less good with spaces between characters and sense of movement. So he's got a ways to go. Just not there yet. So
Yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, the draftsmanship on the character, for the most part, on the figures and the Jeep and the background, what he's got there, the draftsmanship is really good. But as you said, it's just a distinct lack of storytelling.
Yeah, and if this guy understood storytelling, that would have meant that he would have been studying a lot of the older stuff and probably would have figured out some of the things that I said have been missing. So he's got a lot that he could learn from some of the classic guys. All right, let's see. What else do we have here?
Ghost one
more page on there, didn't we? This was another fellow. And I get a lot of work submitted to me that's about this level. And I'll see this and think, okay, this is somebody in high school. They're in love with comics, and they are hoping that they'll get a job someday. And their early enthusiasm is brimming over, and they're sending me stuff. I was like, okay, close up, no background. Close up, no background. Character flying with those legs kicked back, like we're just talking about, where it looks like they are. The bottom half of their legs have been amputated. Okay. There's no sense of place here. There's no real expression. It's all very, very generic. They're still in the process of learning how to draw. And that's fine. Though most of the people I get that'll send me stuff like this, they're 28 and are hoping this is their big break. And you see why that happens. They'll have friends or parents or siblings or whatever. Well, this is a lot better what I can do. I can't draw a straight line. Okay, then why are you giving advice on their stuff? Their opinion doesn't matter because it's not an enlightened or informed opinion.
Right. Exactly.
But these artists are going in without any understanding of what should be done, because there aren't more people like me trying to do this right now to say, okay, you need to study just basic drawing, get that done. Understanding that basic drawing is not storytelling skill. Those are two completely separate things that you've got to learn. Which is why it is so hard for so many artists to be a penciler, an inker, a letterer, a colorist all at once, because those are all different disciplines using different parts of the brain and so forth. So master one step at a time. Become a strong artist first, then master the storytelling. I'll combine them and see where we are. There's a thing that I say in my seminars, that there are like 4 steps to becoming professional. The ability to draw, the ability to tell a story in pictures, the ability to have a professional attitude, and your ability to make deadlines. Any 3 of those can get you a job, but it takes all 4 to have the steady career in the business. So somebody at this level is still learning those first 2.
Right.
And so I appreciate them with the enthusiasm of submitting. But honestly, it shouldn't be impossibly difficult to take a look at good stuff coming from any of the publishers, put your work side by side, say, okay, I'm not really measuring up yet.
Artists, and you know this too, but artists have a distinct lack of ability to be able to judge their own work for some reason.
Well, if it's the best they can do, then it's like, but this is my best stuff. But their best stuff may not be what somebody else needs. So that's the shame of it, but it's also the reality of it. And with the market getting this tough, it's not going to get any easier. So I get a lot of stuff at this level. Now, I am not sure. Oh, look, it's another story with a Jeep in it. That was purely coincidental. All right, this is a sample for Ghost. Now, I'm going through a lot of this, and he's trying to vary camera angles and so forth, but it's all just not very accomplished. None of the buildings read as buildings, or just sort of generic bricks on a wall. Some places basically the backgrounds are gone almost entirely. So there's been no real effort to draw convincing buildings. That doesn't mean a building has to necessarily be realistic. As long as it's convincing within the style it's done in. Somebody drawing an Uncle Scrooge, Donald Duck, or Mickey Mouse comic, or Scooby-Doo for that matter, doesn't have to draw a realistic building. It just has to be convincing within that style. Right. So we get this, and it's just not at a level that any publisher is going to be able to sell to their clients. We get this where somebody, just putting the word Jeep on a generic a car doesn't make it a Jeep. Okay, coming at this creature, Ghost appears. Not quite sure what's happening. Somebody's got a camera? Okay. Okay, they're going to run down a guy. This is all kind of moving in slow motion. Okay, I don't know what happened between panels here, or between pages. And then there's the slowest moving fight I've ever seen. Okay. I am lost. I don't even know what really happened here. There were some things he's trying to do that are interesting. This is kind of all right, I think, but I don't quite understand. That's not a genuine car there. I get the feeling that this isn't so much a comic as a storyboard. He's tried to lay out every single element of what needs to be there, but he's stretched 2 pages into 7, I think. And all it did was slow down the action, but didn't tell the story any better. I'd say first thing he needs to do is get better at drawing everything. Drawing comics is one of the hardest art jobs in the world, and unfortunately, the payments are never good enough to justify the level of work put into it. But you've got to know how to draw people and cars and buildings and clothing and pets, and draw things wet and draw things exploding and aliens and all these other things, and you have to be able to draw them well and consistently. And somebody at this level is not going to be able to do that. In terms of the storytelling, he's at least making an effort. He's moving the camera around. He's got close-ups. He's got the long shots. He's got, here's trying to do a little cinematic thing, and it's all not bad. It shows he's willing to try these things. It's just his level of skill at this level is exceeding his grasp. So I wouldn't tell him to give up. I'd say keep learning. But I have no idea if this person is 50 years old or 15. And they gave me no indication because there wasn't much in their cover letter. So unfortunately, this isn't the sort of work that's going to get somebody a job in the business, but it's all too indicative of the type of portfolios that I do receive on a daily basis.
And you have to wonder or at least I do, what goes through someone's head that, again, their ability to judge themselves, what goes through their head to send a portfolio like that out thinking that it could possibly ever get them work.
Sometimes, although they may not say it in the cover note, because the cover note may just be, here's my stuff. It's like, okay, they didn't ask for a review. It's just, here's my stuff. But it may be as simple as they're working in a total vacuum. They don't have anybody around them that's an artist. They're getting none of that helpful advice from friends or relatives, whatever. So they're reaching out at somebody who obviously does look at portfolios, hoping they're going to get guidance. The problem is when their level is not very high up there yet, there's not that much you can tell them. You could spend hours, saying, okay, you need to work on this with faces and this, and giving them tons of reference. But it's all a long-winded way of saying you need to learn how to draw better first.
Exactly.
So if it's, as I said, you got to have the ability to draw, the ability to have a style editors are willing to buy, the professional attitude, and ability to make the deadlines, all that stuff. Get through those first two, master the drawing ability, then make your way on the storytelling, and then we can give you real guidance, real advice to get you to the next step. And my entire career, I've been willing to take that time to go through things with people. It's gotten to the level where I'm getting less and less in the way of truly competent and ready or almost ready stuff as people get farther and farther away from the great artists that people were learning from a few decades ago.
Right.
So it's more and more stuff like this where it's just, I'm sorry, but it's not at the level that we can sell to our clients. And if they write back, what do you tell them? Learn to draw? That may be what you want to say, but what's the nicest way you can say it? And get better at drawing people, get better at drawing backgrounds and everything. When you've mastered that, then focus on the storytelling. Maybe they'll get there, maybe they won't.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like you said before, artists are emulating like Image Comics, and they're emulating some of the newer stuff that they're seeing, but they're not knowing the process that goes into that.
Yeah. And It's the not willing to learn or not taking the time to learn, because now better than any time in comicdom's history, the information is out there. Because everything is digitized, it's so easy to find that great stuff from Will Eisner and Gil Kane and Neil Adams and Selma and Kirby and all those others, to see what's been done in the past and learn from it. So
100%.
yeah, so I hope this has helped people today. I think we should wrap this up. Oh, we were going to talk about this a little bit.
Yes, we were. The classic spinner rack.
Yeah. So some of the folks watching this may not be aware that a few months ago we launched a Kickstarter for a classic comic book spinner rack. I had seen a lot of people on various social media posts pining away that, oh, I wish I had one of those old spinner racks for my office or my den or my bedroom or wherever. And they would say, oh, I looked on eBay and the classic spinner racks were $1,200. Yeah. New spinner racks were, they were a lot less from Diamond, but Diamond's always out. Well, okay, then they're not available from Diamond. So you're back to the $1,200. So I figured out how to do not only a classic spinner rack for a third of that cost, but I came up with an idea that I sketched out for our manufacturer, that could we make a rack that could be taken apart and fits into a small three-wheeled zippered case. So imagine being able to take a comic book rack and setting it up at a convention or trade show. Or, when I was a publisher at Innovation all those decades ago, I had 2 spinner racks that I had bought, the old 6-foot tall classic rack in black. And if I would take my car, there'd be no way to put that in my car. Or I'd try to fit it between the seats, and oh gosh, I sort of damaged my my car in trying to do that. Yeah, my dashboard's never going to look the same after this. So figured out a way to it'll assemble and disassemble in like 11 minutes. That's not bad. And what you see behind you is the spinner rack in white, and we did toppers on it that have or 4 different options that people can have for what it says. Hey Kids Comics, World's Greatest Comics, that sort of thing. And we can also do customized versions. So if a company wants them to have their company logo, or somebody is selling their books at a convention and they want their books logo on the top of it, we can do all that. Somebody orders enough quantities, we can make them any color we want. They want them in red or pink or yellow or blue. Yeah, we can do all that. So the Kickstarter is over, but we have the late pledge thing going. So if anybody wants to get the spinner racks in white or black, with or without the 3-wheeled carry case, they're available. Do you have the link for them?
The link I will put in the description.
Okay.
Yep, the link will be available in the description. You can click on that, go there, and you can take a look at what's available and purchase your own spinner rack.
Oh yeah. And so folks should check it out. And if they have questions, they can come back next week and the week after and so on and ask us about them. Well, we're happy to talk about it.
Now, is this product going to be available in perpetuity, or?
That is my hope.
Okay.
We manufactured a bunch of them in both black and in white. We have plenty of the cases. The first round of the Kickstarters shipped last week. So they're shipping in from China, and so we were estimating 6 weeks, 7 weeks, depending on where in the world you were, and it'll get into people's hands then. And our second round should ship in a couple of days. So
All right.
people placing orders now, they can be in our second round, and then any we get after that will go in our third round, which will be probably a month from now.
All right. Fantastic.
And then if we keep getting orders, I'll manufacture another whole bunch of them, and we'll just keep it going.
All right. Now, what about that person that says, "Man, I really like to have a spinner rack, but that thing is just too big"?
Well, two things to think of. How big is too big? It takes up 1 foot on your floor. The base is 12 inches. That's not much room in an office or a bedroom and so forth. But we are also thinking about, if this ends up being successful, thinking about doing a tabletop spinner rack next year for people to do, like in Artist's Alley and so forth, where you can have a rack that's only yay high, and it'll go 3 books on each of the 4 sides. So it'll be a 12 pocket rack with an index card size topper that they can put their logo or whatever they want, or pricing, or whatever they want to put on it. And that's my goal, because I went to New York Comic Con and got a lot of good feedback last October. All that feedback, which was incorporated into this spinner rack that's available now. And I also got the feedback that, gee, we'd like this smaller one done. And well, I have the power to do it, so let's do it. Great power comes that great responsibility.
And a very, very cool product as well. So
I'm hoping it helps people. I hope it makes a difference. And it sure is a heck of a lot cheaper than trying to buy an old one on eBay.
Yes, it is. All right.
And mine don't squeak. Those old ones still squeak.
I think that's all for the show today. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate every viewer and every like and subscribe. And we just appreciate all of our viewers. So,
all right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Have a great day, and tune in, or get ready to tune in for next week's podcast as well. So,
Thank you.